YouTube, Hazoo Talks back out in the wood shop. Want to have just made a list. Want to go over some things with you. Another sort of long form video about some shit that I think we need to know about. Some things that people should be talking about. Because I think it's pretty interesting information. You know, make you wonder, make you say, how does this happen? The list of the senators and House members that represent us ordinary people. Yeah, I'm gonna stick that word ordinary because really struck a note with me. Yeah, we're ordinary, and these extraordinary people that represent us, we are their constituents, if you will. I want to talk about some of them, no particular order, and both Democrat and Republican, and even like whatever the hell you would consider Bernie Sanders, besides a fucking flake and a fake, and Elizabeth Warren for that matter. You know, they're both in that boat. But yeah, I want to talk about it because, like, well, let's start with this. Let's start with their base salary for both senators and House members. In 2022, their base salary is $174,000 a year for both of them. That's good money, $174,000. I like it. You know, I wish I was making $174,000, honestly. You know, especially if I knew how to flip some of that $174,000 and make some of the money that these cats are making. You know, I think it's pretty interesting. But let's talk about this, like my income. Let's start with me, because I'm an ordinary person, all right? And as an ordinary person, I can see a six-figure income owning my own business. It's not easy. It's not an easy feat to pull off, but I can see a six-figure income. I live in a modest house. I live a modest life. I drive modest cars and trucks. There's really nothing extraordinary about my income or my possessions, things that I own. For example, I bought a house a couple years ago, roughly a $400,000 house. And on a $400,000 house, your mortgage is roughly, I don't know, close to $3,000 a year, a month with taxes. I live in New Jersey, so my taxes are relatively high. And this was a brand new house, so the taxes are a little bit higher. But yeah, so what do I need? I need $40,000 a year to pay my mortgage and my taxes. I've got a truck for my business, and my truck payment, it's a nice truck. It's a 2019 Dodge Ram 2500 diesel. It was $70,000 when I bought it. I didn't have a lot of money down at the time because, I'm a working class citizen, so I needed it. So, my payment comes in just under $1,000 a month. So there you go, I'm at $4,000. I've got like everything else. I got gas, I've got electric, I've got cell phones, I've got cable. So I'm putting out another, $2,000 a month in bills. And bills and let's just say clothing, if you will. And then you got food shopping, and we're in the middle of the highest inflationary period we've seen in 40 years. So I'm probably spending, at least another $1,000 a month on food. So where are we at? 3, 4. Oh, I'm sorry, my wife has a Dodge Grand Cherokee. She's got a payment, $500 a month. We're self-employed, so I pay for my own health insurance, another $800 a month maybe, or whatever. So yeah, you can see my leverageness is, I'm sitting at needing about $450, $4,500, $5,500, $6,500, roughly about $8,000 a month, $8,000 a month. Right? That's my low ball, drop dead number that I have to come up with in a month to survive at our rate. Over 12 months, what do you got? 80 plus 16, $96,000. $96,000 to stay the way I am. Based on some of these things. And I said that I can pull off a 6-figure income. I'll just say for argument's sake, I make 110, right? Good year, 110. By the way, none of this included taxes. Payment and taxes as well. And my own Social Security and all that shit. So last year I paid over 20, like roughly 20 grand or so in taxes. So at $96,000 just to remain level or even or head above water plus my taxes, I didn't fucking bank a dollar. I didn't bank a dollar, right? On just over 100 grand. Now these cats in the Senate and the Congress, in the House, their salary at 174, and they're there to represent us, right? 174,000. Some of them are from California. Nancy Pelosi's from California. Dianne Feinstein is from California. Adam Schiff is from California. Maxine Waters is from California, right? AOC is from New York. New York's got a high standard of living. Adam Schiff, I think Chuck Schumer is from New York. Adam Schiff is from California. All these people have high standards of living. You know, I'm saying their everyday life. I'm not talking about what they do with their money. I'm talking about buying a house in California or in New York or owning whatever or driving in any of these cities. You know, like what the taxes and things that they have to pay in order to survive. $174,000 is not a lot of money. I'm not even sure in California you can survive on $174,000 a year. Honestly, not in like any kind of like normal square footage house, or in New York for that matter. You know, but they don't not only survive, they thrive. And I want to go over some of this thriving thing with you. And some of it, you know, I have bullshit answers to as to what they've been told or what's been told in the media and what's been going on. But like, let's start with number one, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Her net worth. Now I went on some different sites to look up these people's net worths, and I tried to use the same app for all of them. You know, just from getting kind of like, I don't want to say accurate information, because some of this could be wrong, obviously, but I want to say consistent information. So I tried to pull all these numbers from the same website, if you will. Nancy Pelosi's net worth is listed right now at $135 million. $135 million. It's 1,000 times her yearly salary, roughly. 1,000 times what she makes in a year. How do you do it? I know she's been in politics a long time, but if you took every year combined that she was in the House, and let's just say that she was able to save $50,000 a year for all the years that she was in the House, that would be a pretty good money saved, right? What does that work out to? About $8 billion? Not even, right? So this lady was able to save and make $135 million through her career at an average salary of like $150,000, if you will, if you look at all the years that she's been in it, right? How do you do that? How do you flip 150,000 into 135 million? Fucking teach me that. Seriously. I will never say a word again about any of these people. All right, next one. Mitch McConnell. I'm gonna go Democrat, I'm gonna go back to Republican. Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate, Republican. The guy who stands there and does nothing in the face of all the shit that's going wrong in the world and all the things that are happening. This man sits there and does nothing and says nothing. What's he worth? $150 million. Imagine that. Don't know how long he's been doing it. Don't know where he got the money from. Don't know how he flipped the same investments, $150,000, and made a 1,000 times return to $150 million. Would love to learn though. But you know, they've been in Congress, and house for a long time. And that's just where we are. And I know, like, maybe these are the things that make us the ordinary. And these are the reasons that they think they're extraordinary. Who we got to this? Lindsey Graham. Everybody knows Lindsey Graham, another Republican. He was the guy that tried to go to Cancun when the lights went out in Texas, when they had that freak snowstorm, and they weren't prepared for it. What's Lindsey Graham worth? Well, according to this thing, $100 million. $100 goddamn million for a guy who's younger than me. I think he's younger than me. Maybe he's my age. I got like $10,000 in the bank. And I could nearly make what these people make. This dude's got $100 million in the bank. Where do you think that shit comes from? Where do you think that money comes from? You know? Bernie Sanders. This one blew me away though, honestly, when I looked it up. But it makes sense. It should say this, actually. I feel like this is what you would expect out of a character like Bernie Sanders. I figure he's got all his money tied up in like either his kids' names or wives' names or in some offshore accounts or something. Because he's been in Congress a long time and he owns a bunch of houses and all that shit. But somehow his net worth only comes out to between $3 and $4 million. And which isn't shit, really. I mean, I'm nearly worth $1 million if you look at the equity of what I have in my house, what my house is worth, and what I make in a year. You know, I'm really not that far off being a millionaire, technically. You know, I realize that some of this is about assets, but you know, $3 to $4 million burning into a few houses. But I don't necessarily trust that information either. All right, next one, Adam Schiff. Representative out of California, another fucking winner. Not been in politics for that long, worth $60 million. $60 million. From what? What kind of business did he own before this, you know? What did he do to earn $60 million? There ain't no answers to these questions. This is all about lobbyists and politics. Jerry Nadler. This one blew me away. Jerry Nadler, he's the old guy, House member that shit himself that day on stage. $500,000. My dude ain't worth nothing. That or he's the best guy at playing hide and seek with his assets that I've ever seen. Because according to everything I looked up, he's not worth more than $500,000. And he's in the same position as Adam Schiff. And Adam Schiff is worth $60 million and Nadler's worth $500,000. Go figure that, right? Marco Rubio, Republican, back to Republican. What's he worth? Don't know where he comes from, don't know what he does. $85 million. $85 million for a guy who is a representative or a senator, right? Makes $175,000 a year. Somehow he's been able to flip that into $85 million. AOC, $29 million. The bitch was a bartender 2 years ago. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it like that. She was a bartender in New York 2 years ago. Somehow in 2 years on a $174,000 salary, she's been able to flip that into $29 million. God damn, I just want the secret, you know? John Kerry, former Secretary of State. I think he was Secretary of State for the Obama administration, right? Or maybe before Obama, because maybe that was Clinton. But whatever. John Kerry was Secretary of State at some point. He's been in politics a long time. $250 million. He's one of the dudes with the climate change. It's worth $250 million. You know, private jets and all. Al Gore, Mr. Climate Change himself. Mr. Fly a private jet all around the world to all the meetings to discuss climate change and what we need to be doing to make things better. Why his private jet spews out more carbon than my family of 8 will spew out all year. Al Gore, $300 million. Yeah, that's a fucking hypocrite if I've ever seen one. Maxine Waters, California House member, outspoken, wants to see you guys harass Republicans in public. Represents a district but doesn't live in the district. Instead, she lives outside the district. Her net worth is $10 million. She lives in a predominantly, or she represents a predominantly African American district with seriously high poverty, and she makes $174,000 a year, and somehow she's been able to flip that so that she's worth $10 million, and she don't have to live in the poverty zone anymore. Because you know, what's right is right. That's what she does. That's how they do it. Devin Nunes, looked him up too. A little surprised by this one. Another Republican. Another guy out in the limelight. Seems to be a guy that is either really well at hiding his money or doesn't really have any money and is doing this for all the right reasons. And I want to believe the latter. Devin Nunes, $180,000 is his net worth. I mean, shit. That's not even on my level. Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, New York, either House member or senator, not really sure what he is. Doesn't really matter. No, he's a scumbag. That's what I do know. He was the one that said he's coming to Kavanaugh's house to make him pay. You know, he helped set that shit in motion, that anger, that division. And he made it right. He made it allowed. He made it allowable for somebody to want to go that far and do those things. Although I think there's more to the story, but you know, it's just me. Chuck Schumer, $64 million. Again, based on $174,000 a year salary. Dianne Feinstein, been in politics a long time. Pretty much out of her mind at this point. Don't know, they only keep her because they need the number, you know, because they know that if she would have stepped down, she'd probably get replaced by a Republican. So they gotta keep all these like batshit crazy old people that shouldn't be doing anything, shouldn't even be like fucking pissing for themselves anymore. Without a nurse present. They gotta keep these people in politics. It's what they did with what's her name before she died. And I know a lot of people are gonna be mad about that, you know, depending on who you are watching this, but they made that poor Justice, what's her name? Ginsburg, like stay in office, stay as a Supreme Court justice for like 5 years beyond her, you know, her meaningful whatever, just because they were afraid she would get replaced by a Republican, especially if there's a Republican, you know, as the president at the time. And I mean, I guess that's true. Trump would have put a fucking another conservative justice, and that should be like 6-2 right now. But, you know, whatever. It still was unfair what they did to her. So we see Dianne Feinstein, right? Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is like the female version of Bernie Sanders, if you will. But somehow she made some money. She worth $67 million. Amazing. On a $174,000 a year salary. Again, teach me your secret. Cory Booker. You know what? I see him on TV all the time. He just rubs you the wrong way. He's a guy, and he would tell you he comes from nothing. Comes from like immigrant parents or whatever, and grew up in the streets and doesn't know anything, or didn't know anything, and just wanted to become something to help his community, and blah, 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 all that sadness, all that bullshit story. Cory Booker, $174,000 a year salary. He's been able to flip that shit up to this point into $14 million. How do you do it? What lobbyists are we talking about? But they're embedded in somebody's pocket, you know? Clearly they're embedded in somebody's pocket. Last one I want to talk about. This is Trump's nemesis when Trump was in office. This is a guy who presents as a Republican. He's on the Republican Party, but yet he votes like a Democrat. The same as, the hell is his name? McCain. You know, when McCain was in office, before he passed away, he was a Republican, and yet he was constantly voting across party lines. He was constantly voting, on the Democrat side. And even flaunting it, Mitt Romney, same thing. Comes across as a Republican or a conservative, been that way for 15, 20 years. This man is worth $450 billion, nearly $500 million this man is worth. And somehow he's been able to do that. And I don't give a shit if he owns a business or his family owns a business or whatever. That's $500 million. My dude's worth $500 million. And his job has been making $174,000 a year. I don't give a fuck how good you are at investing. You show me one person. Steve will do it. Can't turn $174,000 into $400 million. I don't think he can turn that shit into $7 million, let alone $450 million, But we just went through this list, and you're talking these few people, these 15 people or whatever I named, these people are worth more than $1 billion of our taxpayer money. The money that we put out every week, every time we get a paycheck, every time I pay taxes quarterly, 4 times a year. These are the people on the receiving end of that. Mitt Romney, with his $450 million, is getting a piece of my money that I pay out. That's how he stays in office. That's where his salary comes from. These are the same people that are walking around here with their social justice goddamn views, virtue signaling about how billionaires should be paying their fair share. Yeah? Well, what about these billions that you guys are all sitting on, that you guys are cumulatively worth? What are you guys paying out? I'd like to see disclosure. Hey man, they did it to Trump, right? They spent fucking 5 years at this point, maybe 6 years so far, trying to get him to disclose his taxes. Well, what's fair is fair. Let's look at this shit across the board. Let's ask them some real questions, some hard questions. How do you turn $170,000 a year into $60 million or $150 million or $450 million? Let's figure that out. Because I'll tell you what, looking at that shit's the end of poverty. That's the end of world hunger. That's the end of disease and sickness, right? If you could just teach us ordinary people how to turn $174,000 a year into $450 million, we live on the greatest planet in the goddamn universe. And you couldn't do anything to change it, Global warming won't be a problem anymore. Shit, we'll just plant trees, right? Hundreds and hundreds of millions of trees, putting off oxygen, sucking up all the CO2, Won't be a problem. All right, YouTube, that's all I got. Mazu Talks, thank you. Please like and share my video. And just, think about it. Pass this shit along. Take a look at these lists and see what these people are worth, and ask yourself, how'd they get there? Besides, through us. Thanks, guys.